All right. Oh, wait. Got it. This is my first time. Can't tell. Welcome everybody in Zoom land. You guys are all live on your microphones, so whenever you speak, it will be heard everywhere. This meeting will be recorded, so we'll send it out to everybody afterwards. Just want to introduce myself. I'm Tammy Brand. If you don't know me, I think I know most everybody or have met you there's a couple of people on Zoom as well. So thank you for joining and participating. Thank you, Tiffany, for DJing over there, our town clerk. She'll be touching a little bit with business licenses. And then also Lindsay Mills helped me prepare this. So thank you both. We've got, you all know Sam, Drew, who starts with us December 5th as a part-time electrical and plumbing inspector. And our new inspector who started 2 days ago, Tommy.
Thank you.
Yeah. So
you're gonna like him. He's nice.
So you be nice to him. Okay, so we're just gonna get rolling here. We're gonna try to keep this kind of as high level as possible. And then you can ask questions during each slide, and then we'll have time at the end, hopefully, depending on how long it takes to talk about construction hours. So just kind of the transition process, what this is looking like from Mountain Village to the town with plumbing and electrical, how to purchase your business license if you don't already have one, your parking options, a little touch on our SmartGov permitting system, which I think a lot of you already use or have used. And then of course, input with the noise ordinance and operating hours. Scott Robson, our town manager, is going to come down in a little bit to talk about that with you all. And then of course, more time at the end for question and answers. So this is kind of it. I'm not going to read the whole slide because I think you can all read, but all electrical is with the town of Telluride right now. Even if you had an active permit with Mountain Village or applied for a permit with Mountain Village, do not do that anymore. It's all town of Telluride. Kind of how that looks is if you have, I know Matt, we were talking earlier, he has a couple of existing that are associated with a remodel or new construction. All I'm doing is assigning him to that GC's permit. He can continue out the rest of his inspections with that, or the GC can request them for him. I found that that's the easiest way, I think, to, push this all over. You don't need to worry about fees. Mountain Village won't be doing any refunds. You just no longer go through them for your inspections or permits on electrical. Warner, I see your hands raised. I'll get to you in just 1 second. I don't know how to unmute you. Thank you, Jonna. And then plumbing, if you have an existing plumbing permit that was issued before November 13th, you will continue requesting those inspections until January 25th in the village.
You still have to call the village to get that permit.
Or request it through community court. New plumbing permits will come through the town of Telluride. He's unmuted. Thank you. Warner, do you have a question?
I do. Thanks for putting this together. My question is, do we need to apply for separate electrical and plumbing permits if we're applying for a broader building permit, or will the electrical and plumbing permits be included when we apply for a building permit? Like in the village, when it's changed. And then my second question would be, does the electrician pull the electrical permit, or the plumber, or does the general contractor?
Great question. I think that's similar to Mountain Village. So the general contractor, if it's a remodel or new construction, will include the valuation from the electrician and plumber on their permit and assign them as a contact. If it's plumbing only or electrical only, those plumbers and electricians will pull their permit for themselves.
So it will be included. And
to talk into your mic.
So. I think the mic can hear me. So it will be included, and we'll work out the stuff with respect. But you will be working with the electricians will be working with the general.
Okay, so we'll handle that at CO. And then,
Well,
is there,
internally with you guys, because yeah, I mean, however you want to do that financially, say it's $1 million permit and the electrician's part is, or electrical contractor's part is $100,000. Yeah, it's gonna be $1 million permit. How you deal with the permit costs and all that, you'll have to work that out. And I'll help you out with how we do that if that is cogent. I mean, is that kind of understood? That'll be different.
yep, that's definitely different, but I think a little easier. And then it's acceptable, I assume, based on that for the GC to call in for a plumbing or electrical inspection, or do you want the plumber or the electrician to call in for those specific inspections?
Drew's gonna speak to that.
You should have the electrician or the plumber pull the permit, because I've ran into a lot of problems with GCs calling in when the plumber and electrician aren't ready.
Oh, you mean request the
Requesting
inspection?
the inspection.
Yeah.
Inspections,
Okay.
yes.
You,
So,
to answer your question though, Werner, yes, you can. And what I hear Drew saying is that hasn't been very effective in the village, so maybe you might want to have your electrician or plumber call it in, is that way, yeah.
so here in a couple of slides, I'm gonna get to the SmartGov portal, and I was gonna show you all how to add those contacts. If they're existing portal users, you just start typing in their name and you add them as a subcontractor to your permit. That'll make it easy for Matt. I'm gonna use you as an example the whole time because you're here. To have him as your electrical or electrician, and then he can automatically be assigned to the permit. As soon as the permit's issued, you can start requesting inspections. Any other questions on this slide? Does this all make sense to everyone?
So that GC can also change, if they decide to change electricians, they can change that through their portal.
Yeah, and just for you on Zoom, I'll repeat the question if you couldn't hear. If the GC decides to change the electrician or plumber mid-project, or, you know, circumstances happen, yes, we'll just call me. I'll remove that electrician or plumber, and then we can add the new one on.
Same way we've done over the years on any, when, I mean, owners decide to change contractors too.
Any other questions? Or on Zoom, raise your hand if you have a question.
How do you raise your hand?
There's a little. Okay, great. And then again, you know, there's information on here. We'll share this recording. If you have any questions whatsoever, you all have our numbers. If you don't get them, Drew's cell phone is going to be the same when he starts working for us. So just give us a call and we'll help you out.
It'll be different.
It's going to be different. Okay, scratch that. Drew's going to have a different number. We'll get that to everyone.
But you can always call me and I know.
Yeah.
I will know where he is.
Okay. Just a couple of little touch points here. I feel like most of you know this. All general contractors and subcontractors must hold a town and Telluride business license. I think there was a misconception that if you were an electrician or a plumber and your permit was through the Mountain Village and you're working in town, you didn't need a business license. Cause I've actually talked to a few in the last week that were like, oh, I didn't know that I needed that. So if it's a carpet installer, water delivery guy, anybody that is doing any service or construction in town must have a business license. And we'll come up to that slide next with that information. Of course, electrician and plumbers need to have their state license. That's a requirement. I know those renew every couple of years. Feel free to email those to me, or you can upload them as a submittal document to your permit. And then this one, again, we just touched on this and I'll show you here in just a minute. You need to add your subcontractors to your permit when you're applying online. If you don't know them yet, or you haven't hired them yet, or you think it might change beforehand, don't do it. And then let me know before the permit issues or when the permit issues and I can go in and add.
It's in the
system.
contacts,
Yes, I'm going to show everybody in
the little, yeah.
just a minute. Okay. Next slide. These QR codes, you can scan these if you need them. This is just learning more information about the business licenses and where to go to purchase your business license. They renew on January 1 every year. So I won't stay on this too long. I know Tiffany was going to answer any questions if you have any. Yeah, we've got Lauren here if we have any questions, but I think the one thing to note that the business license clerk mentioned was that for out of town, right here, out of town businesses should indicate on their application how many employees are actually working in town, not how many work in the company as a whole. And I think that makes a difference for checks and balances for the business license team.
You're charged based on the number of employees.
Ah.
So if you have 20 employees, but 19 of them work in Grand Junction. Only one of them works in town.
Right.
You should
So what Lauren was saying for the others is that less employees is less cost, so be smart about that.
If you have,
mean,
like she
that's-
was saying, if you have 19 employees in Junction, but only one is actually working in town, you would just want to submit that one employee, and that's what your business licenses fees would be based on. And then again, this one here, if a subcontractor is coming in from Durango, this is going to be the only job they do all year long. Just let the clerks know and they can cancel your license if you're just here for the one job. I think those are 2 bullet points they asked me to highlight. Does anybody have any questions about business licenses? Okay. All right, the SmartGov portal. Again, add all of your contacts. Plumbers and electricians their valuations will be included in remodels and new construction. And then you can upload your state license here. I just kind of wanted to bullet point these items because this is kind of new for some of the GCs that are in town that maybe haven't added their electrician or other subcontractors before. So I'm going to stop sharing really quickly and then share that screen. So this is what your portal looks like. So when you go into my portal, you can apply for a permit, you can request your inspections, and you can view your active permits or permits that you have begun to apply for. So I'm just going to open this one here as a sample. You see this right here, permit contacts. It will always say done, but that doesn't mean that you're done. It's going to have you as an applicant, and the owner record is going to be pulled from San Miguel County. So let's say, I'm going to use Finbro as an example since we have Warner on the call. Let's say that Finbro and Ryan Ellers is going to be my superintendent. Great. He's a contractor. I'm going to add him to my permit. Okay. Now I want to add, Connor, what's your company? What's your business name?
Berkshire.
Berkshire. BERK. Nope. Nope. So you might run into this too. Can't find you.
CONNOR. Yeah, don't look too hard.
I'm gonna assign you to this remodel. Well, whatever. I'm just gonna add someone else. Anyhow, you get my drift. If they have a portal account, they're already gonna be in the system. If they do not, you can add a contact here. You just put in their name, their information. You can ask them to create a portal account. So we might run into this in the beginning if it's an electrician that hasn't done work in town or hasn't made that transition to our portal system yet. We're going to want to make sure that they get on and create a login. That way, when you as a GC add them as a subcontractor, their information's in there. It's easy just to add them. So if I issued this permit right now, Ryan Ellers could come in and request inspections as the superintendent. Finbro is a really good one. I think all of their employees have their own login so that they can assign who they have on site to each specific permit. So that's why I use that one as an example. Let me see on my notes here. Oh, another one. I actually kind of ran into this week with a new electrician. You want to make sure, especially as a subcontractor, you go into your account and you manage your email notifications. So what happened with this electrician is she said, I've gotten 10 emails since you added me to that permit. Well, she's getting all of the inspection emails from the whole project. So unless you want to receive every time there, you know, if the permit's gonna expire, if it's issued on the portal, if, I don't, you know, if they failed an inspection, if they requested an inspection, you need to deselect these on here. And I think this would be helpful for the subcontractors. And then if you want to see what your inspection results are, you can just log in and see what those are. So that's just a little side tip.
Yeah, one quick thing on inspections, because there are some, I see a plumber, electrician. If you called for a partial, you know, which happens all the time, Drew comes out and it'll say, you know, partially approved. And you'll get an email that said, request another inspection. That's the system. It looks like you failed. You didn't fail the partial part. You just didn't, if we put approved, you don't get to use, you don't get to call for an inspection again. That's the way the system is. So we use partially approved until it's all done at the very end. So I know some of the contractors have gotten that and called me and said, well, what did I flunk? Well, you didn't flunk, you just didn't finish the whole project yet. So just realize that's kind of how, because that is, it's like it's email like you flunked, well, you did. So.
Does that make sense?
Does it, do I have the ability to put notes in there so that?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's lots of notes, but people usually don't get to the notes. They just see that they have to request another inspection. They feel like they haven't passed that one, but they have.
Right. Any questions while I'm on the portal? Anybody on Zoom? Guys are just so on it. Great. I'm gonna go back to my presentation. Okay, so, you know, in this, if you have further questions or you really want to get into the nitty-gritty of how the system works, please call me. Or we have a laptop upstairs that we can use for the public. You can log in, we can walk through it together. I am out the 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, so if you need something then, call Sam.
Yeah, but be careful. She's the goddess of smart gov. I know not as much, but we'll get you situated.
Okay. Parking. I think most of you are familiar with this, but I just wanted to highlight it since we've got, you know, electricians and plumbers here and on the call. There's a couple of options, and I think this option over here is really going to be for your subcontractors. If you are, you know, on a job for maybe a couple of weeks here and then over here for a couple of weeks, or you're a carpet installer, this is the permit you need. You need to scan this QR code and visit the Marshall's page. And the service permit is for all over town. You can park everywhere in town except for the center lane. Never park in the center lane unless you have a center lane permit. I think that's where most people get their tickets, because that's just a misunderstanding. That you think you can park anywhere in town, but you can't. You can't park in the center lane. But the service permit allows you in all the parking zones. Now this one, I know Doug has some of these parking permits and I know Finbro has them as well. These are intended for your larger remodel and new construction projects. These should be included on your construction mitigation plan when you submit for building permit. And these are issued by me. I have my own construction fleet through the Marshall's parking system. They're on an escalating scale. You get up to 6 permits, $50, $100, and then the rest are $150 each. They expire every 3 months. So they're not cheap, but that is what they're intended for, more of your superintendents and the folks that are going to be on the job, the duration of the project.
Warner has a question.
Yes, Warner.
Yeah, real quick, does it make sense for somebody like myself where I'm visiting, you know, 4 or 5 projects in town to get a service contractor's permit? You know, or like a laborer who we're sending to, all right, you need to go, you know, to these 4 jobs in Telluride today. Would it make sense for us to look at getting service contractor permits, or do we just keep getting specific job site permits?
You know, Warner, I think you're hit the nail on the head. I know that you aren't on specific projects every day. You move around, and so does some of your workers. And I think that a service permit might make sense for you guys that are bouncing around from project to project to project. And you can feel free to call Callie with the marshal's office and she can help you get set up, or you can go on this QR code here and apply online for those types of permits.
Okay, great. Yeah, we had always thought, oh, we're not allowed to have a service contractor permit, but that might make sense for us. So, okay.
It might make sense for a few of you. I know some of like your superintendents who are on those specific jobs the whole time, they would want to get the permits through me, but the service permits would be more for the guys that bounce around. Any other questions about parking? Okay. And please email me if you want to get these construction parking permits. Again, I'm going to be out those 2 weeks, so try to reach out to me next week before Thanksgiving. The offices are closed on Thanksgiving Day and Black Friday, so I can get you set up on those before I'm out of town. Okay. And then the next one is really for Scott, so I'm hoping he pops down in a minute. I don't know if maybe. Okay, thank you. Lauren's gonna go check and see where he's at. So I think, you know, where I'll let Scott kind of introduce this, but these are the current operating hours that are in the construction mitigation plan manual. And that's the manual there if you want to scan it.
How many like them?
I
Raise your hand if you like our. Oh, you don't even like them. I know you don't. Nobody, what we're trying to do is, by the way, is change them. And that's why the manager's involved, because it's way above my pay scale and makes Ron nutty. So what I've heard from most of you guys over the years is you just like set time, you know, 8 to 5 or whatever. If you need extra time, let's set it up, you know, you can ask for permission. And no devices, no, you know, that's what I've heard. But here's Mr. Scott here. You can tell him what you'd like to.
Scott, we do have some people on Zoom. If you'd like to
Where's
sit up
best-
here with a microphone, that would be great, because then you can be seen and heard.
Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Scott Robson, town manager here in Telluride. Thanks for giving me a couple minutes here. I just thought since we were getting a good group of contractors together this afternoon, and thanks for being here in person and online, that we talk about noise ordinance. It's certainly come up enough to the town manager's office, to town council. Our noise ordinance we recognize is really challenging to not just interpret sometimes, but to follow, given there are different hours for different device types out there. We know it was adopted probably over a decade ago at this point, right, Tammy? We know it kind of drives our staff crazy trying to, again, articulate the rules and try to enforce it. So I just thought since we had a good group of you here today, let you know that it's on town council's radar also to try to simplify our noise ordinances related to construction hours. And I've been starting to do a little bit of work internally on what might be just the simplest, easiest policy that we all can remember and enforce easily, and just get your feedback. I don't know that we need to walk through this. You can see it in front of us here of chainsaws versus X, Y, and Z. And I think if we could just do away altogether with the equipment, calling out specific equipment types, and just get to something like an 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, Saturday. And here's some of you. It's starting to sound like some hours that might be viable for the contracting community and might also be the right balance with just neighbors. Obviously, we're packed close together in Telluride here. Houses very close to one another compared to a lot of communities. But I just kind of wanted to throw that out. Regardless of the times, we want to simplify this and make it easy for you guys to follow, but also easy for our code enforcement marshals to know who's outside the bounds. So if anyone's willing to just weigh in on hours and any other thoughts around noise ordinance, we'd love to hear from you.
We've got
Warner Katzman who's has his hand raised.
yeah,
Okay.
and then you're next, Doug. Okay.
So I'm
Oh.
Doug Geisler with Dover Construction. I'm building a house right here across.
Oh, wait, hold on. Warner can't hear you. Can you come up to this microphone?
Sure.
Thank you. Hang tight, Warner. We'll get to you next.
No problem.
Doug Geisler with Cobra Construction here. I'm building a house right here at 226 North Pine.
Yeah.
I've had the cops call on me 10 times.
Yeah.
By the same neighbor.
Yeah.
Every time. I've gotten a $100 summons for using a cordless drill at 8:20 in the morning.
Mhm.
I've got a $100 summons for using a hammer at 8:40 in the morning.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't make sense that we can use backhoes, excavators at 8, but we can't cut a board and nail it together until 9.
Yeah.
So I agree with the direction you're going. If you can make noise at 8, make noise at 8.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
seems pretty cut and dry to me.
Do you feel like an 8 to 5 Monday through Friday and a 9 to 5 on Saturday is viable for your teams? to
I would
get-
rather see it go to 6
Mhm.
because I let my guy in the summer, especially for my guys to work 4 10s.
Yeah.
And then have the 3-day weekend. And here's,
So
one
6
point that I
o'clock on
don't think
Saturday is
anybody,
not so important.
what's that?
6 o'clock on Saturday is not something you'd necessarily be
No.
looking for.
And one thing that I don't know if anybody's put the math to, but if you lose that hour between 8 AM and 9,
Yeah.
an hour a day, 5 hours a week, 250 hours a year,
Yeah.
500 hours over the course of a 2-year project, that extends the life of the project by 12 and a half weeks
Right, right.
for 1 hour a
Yeah,
day.
we talk a lot about that kind of thing internally about knowing, in cold conditions, mountain environments, shorter construction seasons that we got to think about those things hard.
A winter summer schedule would be a lot more viable than chainsaws and backhoes. I mean, if you guys feel like 6 o'clock in the summer for sure, and maybe 5 in the winter, or because it's.
Well, in the winter, I mean, it's dark.
Yeah, it was dark last night
5
when I
o'clock.
went home, and so.
Yeah,
I mean, my point being that I think what Scott needs is help from your community. You guys get in touch because what we have now.
We know it
believe me,
doesn't work
yeah.
well. And well, thanks for that input. I know we got a couple other comments. Just so I should start off with this, but we'd love to just take any input today we're getting. And we would like to schedule this up as a work session in front of town council, maybe as early as December meeting. And that would be another opportunity for contractors to come in, or the general public or whomever, and just kind of express their thoughts around some draft hours we would put out there based on this conversation. So this is, again, just an opportunity to get some input from you guys early on here as we tee something up for town council, because ultimately council would be the ones that would need to adopt modifications to this.
just one last thing I would like to say is the way it's written now, homeowners, you're expecting homeowners and the code enforcement officials to know what tools are being used.
Right.
That's right.
Because one of the times a neighbor called the cops was for a power tool.
Mhm.
I didn't even have electricity on the job site.
Yeah.
And they got called for using a power tool.
Yeah, yeah. Right, and it puts our code enforcement in a really tough position of their job is to enforce the code as written, and it's a nightmare.
But
We-
then
we
they
know
don't
that.
even know what some of the tools
No,
that are
that's
being
right.
used
That's right.
are.
Yeah. No, thanks for the input. Appreciate that. And if there's
I think Warner,
Warner.
you want to go
Yeah,
ahead?
I could not agree more with Doug. And we've had the cops called on us on multiple occasions as well. And ironically, on one project, our framing crew, we literally lost 2 months. So guess what, neighbor? Now you have us working next to you for an extra couple of months, as Doug pointed out. And it doesn't make sense to have chainsaws and heavy equipment with a backup beeper and everything else starting at 8, but you can't have a compressor or a power saw till 9. So I think to simplify it, if it were up to me, I'd say we let us start at 7. But I know in a resort community like this, with a lot of people who apparently like to sleep in, 7 a.m. would be rough. For most of us in the trade, 7 a.m. is closer to 12 noon for us than most. But if we could just go to 8 to 6 during the weekdays, I think that would really accommodate and eliminate a lot of these conflicts. 7 would be awesome, but I know that's probably greedy on our part. And, you know, unfortunately, a lot of our tradesmen are coming from out of town. So for them to start at 9, you know, really puts a challenge on them. And I mean, we've had to like lock tradesmen out of job sites because the cops were calling us, and they're like, we don't care. We have to get work done. So I think if we could just have a simple 8 to 6 Monday through Friday, you know, maybe 9 to 5 on Saturday, that would simplify it and make it more reasonable, I think, for everybody. And, you know, my last comment, and I know nobody wants to hear this, but I also think it's very unfair when the town's projects are allowed to, you know, work different hours than private projects. And I mean, we saw at the Eider Creek at one point, the town decided to do road work and stop the road at 7:30 in the morning, and basically 150 students all got tardies that day. And it's like, wait a minute, you know, the town has a project, we can go ahead and close the road, and the rest of us can't even start till 9. It's kind of silly. I think that should be something that should be consistent as well.
Yeah, no, thanks for all that input. Really good, really great input. I think on the town project side, that one, I think that might have preceded my time. I don't remember.
That was Sunnyside, yeah.
Oh, the Sunnyside project. I see. Yeah, you know, we do have to follow the same rules as the general public on a town project. If there's a request for a time variance, that has to come across my desk. Ultimately, I have to sign off on that. I did so the other day, for example, over at Voodoo, where we knew we were having a huge concrete pour on a second deck, and it's just an amazingly long day, as you guys know. And we'll do that for a private project too, if necessary. Folks just have to make their case, but the town does not have different operating hours. We have to follow our own rules. But on some of these big public projects, there are requests, and sometimes we give the thumbs up, sometimes we give the thumbs down. But I hear your point, and they're very visible projects as well. So we'll always do whatever we can to not impact ultimately the public. So.
Anybody else in the room or on Zoom want to comment? Thumbs up on what's been said, thumbs down, thumbs up.
Cool.
Great.
Thanks for that input, everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks for giving me a little bit of time, but it is important to us to just get this streamlined, make it easier for everybody, and ultimately get you guys the hours that are viable to get work done as quickly as possible. I don't know that we can get to the 7 a.m.s of the world in this town, but thanks for the feedback.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
I think for us too, I think we're spot on with what you guys are saying, especially getting rid of these equipment sections. Those just need to go away. And then just kind of regulate that everything in one category. And please attend those town council meetings and speak public comment. I think town council appreciates that. And they definitely, I've heard town council say before, they wish they had more of the construction community involved in our local government. So please get involved, make public comments, submit letters if you can't.
Yeah, emails, or they love them. So email,
Yeah.
I don't mean that meanly. So send an email. It doesn't have to be long. We're in favor of this. These are our reasons. Condense what you said, Doug, or not condense, but put that in an email.
I would just,
Good stuff.
I think we may be looking at as early as the December 12th town council meeting to have this up as a work session. So again, those notices will go out, and we'll do our best to reach out specifically to contractor community before that. But December 12th might be our first discussion, and then subsequent meeting after that might be a first reading of an ordinance to change it. So we'll get something done. I'm pretty confident this winter. So, all right. Thanks, everybody.
Great. Thank you, Scott. One other thing that I thought about going back in my notes, SmartGov, we have some great news. Preservation Planning and Public Works will be going live, hopefully by end of year or first of the year. So what this looks like is if you need a right-of-way obstruction permit, if you need to amend your HARC approval, if you need any planning approvals, it will all be on SmartGov. So if you call me or you just go online, you're like, you know what, I need a right of way obstruction of permit in this alley on this day. You can apply online. You don't have to take paper written in blue ink and a paper check to Public Works anymore. It's gonna be great. So look for that. I'll make sure I email everybody once we go live with those departments. Any other questions on anything that we talked about today? Mike?
Inspection schedules for electrical.
Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Thursdays in the morning,
8 AM to 12:30.
8 to 12:30.
And again, if it's an emergency, Drew and I just talked about, we'll flesh this out. I was hoping he'd just get the other part done first before, and that's soon, but he'll somewhat deputize me. I've done it in the past. I know you guys don't want some new guy, but we'll work you out. If you have an emergency, we'll take care of it.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
So I talked to Sam this morning and you. It's kind of on smaller projects. Mountain Village is really accommodating issues permits quickly, and it's always like a next day inspection.
Mhm.
If I have someone who calls and wants to like install a washer dryer in their house, and it's cut out drywall, put in the washer box, close it up, get it inspected. Like, I know that town's often booked out, and I just want to have like a standard way of approaching that situation where we're not like,
Yeah.
doing the work, waiting a week or two for the inspection, then
Sure.
come back.
Yeah, and
Maybe repeat a little bit of the questions. so
yeah,
people on Zoom can
this
hear.
Connor, who I finally meet, I talked to him on the phone. But, so Connor's question was about a lot of things from a plumbing trade or mechanical. If they don't have heat or they don't have hot water, give them heat, give them hot water, we'll catch up. I mean, we've always been that way. Next day permits, I'm not gonna promise that because it has to do, it just depends. Generally, we do that. I've been by myself more or less for a year, and so that's why we're a little behind. We have a new Tommy started, and he's doing great, and that will free me up to do my real job. And so we'll be able to accommodate that. But always, if you have a question, I'll call you back. We'll talk. And that, like I did with you, and we can explain that. I didn't even know that Drew he would do the pressure test on the exhaust vent prior to the permit being issued. We don't do that, but we usually issue those permits within 24 hours. And if you can't do that, if it's a retrofit and they need heat, we'll work with you on that, okay?
Okay.
You'll be doing a lot of this, but that's kind of what I would assume yeah.
Any other questions? Great. Well, thanks, everybody. Please, get
Take
more.
cookies to
Take
your
more
crew.
cookies and get some more coffee because I made way too much. Thanks, everybody on Zoom. I'll get out this recording after Thanksgiving sometime once the recording's ready. And again, feel free to call me or Sam if you have any questions. Thank you.